24 hours. Rome would need only that to burn like a ravenous monster. Flames rose from the warrens of workshops near the Circus Maximus. Oil, leather, timber stacked like kindling, and leapt roof to roof as if the city itself exhaled fire. Rafters shrieked, tiles burst, alleyways glowed red at the seams. Windows breathed out sparks. Door lintels sighed and folded. Shrines flickered and went black. In the first minutes, people woke to a sky turned furnace orange, and to a sound that was not quite wind, not quite ocean, a roar with teeth. On the Palatine, above the running crowds and falling beams, a man listened to that roar as if it were applause. Nero, emperor, performer, connoisseur of effect, stepped to a terrace where heat rose in waves and the smell of resin and charred cloth climbed like incense. His world had always been a stage. Now the stage was the world. Below, the shop district crackled, and the fire found what Rome had given it for centuries. Tight streets, high insulae with timber galleries, storerooms fat with oil and grain. The blaze took them like an actor takes breath. Senators hurried in, soot already painting their togas. Orders, Caesar, fire breaks, bucket lines, the cohorts. Nero lifted a hand, the gesture small and terrible. Not yet. The catastrophe could be a script if you entered at the right moment. He could imagine boulevards where alleys stood, vistas where slums hid, colonnades where roofs had sagged, an empire's capital reborn with his name in its marble, a tyrant's calculation threaded an artist's thrill. Opportunity, if it stayed this incandescent, would write him immortal. Down in the streets, opportunity had another word: panic. Families heaved chests and bed frames into lanes that were already smoke-filled. Mules bolted blind. A tavern roof collapsed, coughing out sparks like a forge. Soldiers posted near the palace blocked passages for security, and rumors flared faster than pitch. Some swore they'd seen figures with torches. Others whispered of a sect that met at night and sang to an alien god. The fire made every fear plausible. When the wind turned, the blaze bent toward richer quarters. Only then did Nero's hand drop in a queue for action. Demolitions for fire breaks, cohorts to clear avenues, water chains from the Tiber. Axes bit into still unburnt homes, and the strange arithmetic of saving a city by killing its streets began. From the terrace, Nero watched roofs go down in ordered collapses, the line of destruction suddenly neat, almost architectural. He asked for a lyre, not to play, not yet, but to feel its polished weight on his palm. Art required framing. So did power. History will argue forever about what he knew and when. But on this night, with Rome howling like a wounded beast and the Palatine lit as if by dawn, one truth was plain. The emperor did not see a disaster he must survive. He saw a canvas he could claim, and the city, waking into smoke and cinders, understood that the flames were not the only thing that would devour. From the Palatine, Nero drinks the spectacle like wine. Heat climbs the terraces in currents. Sparks drift upward like golden gnats. He leans on the parapet, head cocked, as if listening for tempo, where the blaze hammers, where it hushes to a low, devouring murmur. In his mind, avenues unfurl through smoke, colonnades to catch the morning light, porticos mirrored in marble pools, a city remade to fit the breadth of his self. Senators tug at his sleeve. Orders, Caesar, the cohorts, the aquarii, the fire breaks. But he is timing the entrance. You do not stride on stage while the chorus is still tuning. Down by the Circus Maximus, Peter steps into a hallway of ash. The air scrapes the throat. The sky pulses bloody above the rooftops. He is no architect of vistas. He counts faces. Buckets, there, past them. You, take the children toward the river. Wet the blankets. He does not preach. He lifts a beam with two others while a grandmother crawls free. He wraps a tunic round a boy's mouth. He knocks on a door until the hinges sag and the smoke answers. For now, faith is logistics. Split your people, cover the alley mouths, pair the strong with the failing. But even as he works, he hears a second roar rising, the roar of stories. Strange sect, night singers, enemies of the gods. The fire is catastrophe. What follows will be policy. Nero signals at last. Axes flash. Demolition squads begin the merciless arithmetic of saving by destroying. Walls tumble in controlled avalanches. Streets open like wounds, then like corridors. He nods, pleased at the line, the order, the shape of necessity. If Rome is a canvas, fire breaks are brush strokes. He asks for reports that sound like reviews, where the flame performs best, where it flags, where a new breeze gives it spine. Somewhere in him a shiver of fear, of mockery, of failure, flares and is smothered under the zeal of redesign. The old city was a knot. He will untie it with fire. Peter turns a corner into a red-lit courtyard and finds a family crouched by a fallen lintel. Up, he says, calm as a hand on the shoulder. Follow me. Stay low. A soldier bars the alley. Palace priority. Then looks to the coughing child and lets them pass. Small mercies in a night of iron. Behind Peter, his people fan out with water skins and cloths. Ahead of him, rumor runs faster than flame. He knows what rulers do with chaos. They give it an address. He can feel the net being woven, thread by thread, around a name he carries like a stone. On the hill, Nero cradles a lyre, not to play, only to weigh the curve, to feel in the palm the promise of an overture. Below, the city staggers and staggers again. Two gazes read the same fire. One sees a proscenium, the other a triage line. By dawn, the embers will cool, but the choices will not. Rome will bury its dead, and the emperor will decide whom to burn next. The wind turned executioner. Gusts barreled down the narrow lanes, picked up embers like cavalry, and drove the blaze toward the forum. Tiles pinged and flew. Eaves became bellows. A roof here, a roof there sagged, glowed cherry, then caved with a cough of sparks that leapt to the next beam, as if the city were a chain of torches waiting for their cue. Statues sweated soot. Awnings snapped and vanished in a single lick. The Basilica Aemilia coughed smoke from its colonnade. Market stalls went up like kindling piled for a feast. The sky was not sky. It was a lid of hammered bronze. Heat trapped under it, pressing down. Soldiers fanned out in ordered wedges, but the order bit in only one direction. Secure the approaches to the Palatine. The cry moved faster than any bucket line. Streets that led uphill became clear, not by miracle, but by spear. A cart trying to angle past with a child and a chest was turned aside. A water-bearer was told to pour somewhere else. A baker who begged to save his oven was shoved down an alley that already breathed flame. At each checkpoint, the same logic. The Emperor's Hill first, and then the rest of Rome, if daylight remained. In that manufactured vacuum, rumor sprouted like mushrooms after rain. Fast, pale, poisonous. A woman, hair singed, hissed that she'd seen men singing in a storage yard while the sky burned. A porter swore he'd heard a prayer in a language that wasn't Latin, therefore guilt. A grape seller, drunk on smoke and fear, shouted that the sect had wanted this, purification for a new kingdom. No names, no places, only heat-blurred shapes and the human need to point. The words traveled easier than water. Christians, night-eaters, God-betrayers, candle-worshippers. Every whispered label was a wick laid for the next fire. Peter, down by the circus shadow, felt the temperature shift. Not in the air, but in the eyes. Gratitude a moment ago. Thank you, old man. Now curdled into watchfulness. He heard a soldier laugh without humor, singing while Rome chokes. Are they? He asked whom they meant. No answer, just the shrug that leaves a bruise. He moved his people anyway. 2 to the river, 3 to the granary wall, 1 to knock open a painted door where a cough had gone thin. Help first, he told them. But he tucked away the sound of that laugh like a splinter he would have to pull later. Above, the Palatine's edges glittered in a defensive calm. Below, the forum's paving stones began to buckle, where lead clamps ran molten under marble. A city sweating from the bones. A gust shouldered the flames down the sacred way, and a line of men with hooks yanked at balconies to make a break that wasn't wide enough. The hooks tore, the wind laughed. Somewhere a priest tried to lift a votive from a smoking altar and dropped it with a cry. The god was too hot to touch. By dawn, ash would lie on every threshold like a gray decree. And over that ash, the first clean footprints would be words. Blame already written before the embers cooled. He rehearsed his power. In the lamplit galleries of the Palatine, Nero paced like a lead actor moments before the curtain, sandals whispering over marble still dusted with ash. A lictor adjusted a torch. A eunuch stilled a trembling door. The Emperor's hands hovered over a lyre, not to play, but to feel its promise. Strings tight as nerves. Outside, Rome roared like a furnace, swallowing its own breath. Inside, the air smelled of cedar oil and hot bronze, of a city's pain filtered through perfume. Tigellinus watched him the way a captain reads a tide. The prefect's face was a mask carved for obedience and fitted for weather. He knew the wind in the streets, the crack in a crowd's voice when fear begins to turn into anger. They want a savior, he said softly, not quite to Nero, not quite to the walls. Give them plans, sire, and a villain. He did not say which would be the easier sell. Nero paused at a window, where the sky pulsed red and black. In the reflection, he saw not a tyrant, not yet. He saw a city reborn in straight lines and spectacle. Boulevards wide enough for processions and controlled flames. Colonnades that framed vistas like stage wings. Fire breaks cut through the tangled warrens where the blaze had eaten fastest. Stone and brick writ into law. Warehouses separated from homes. Porticos rebuilt with space to breathe. Streets aligned so the wind, today's traitor, could be drafted into discipline tomorrow. He spoke the vision and courtiers nodded the rhythm for him. Rebuilding fever took its first clean breath. Ash lay on the streets like a second skin. In Subura, mothers patted it from children's hair and only made them grayer. Men scraped shop thresholds with broken amphorae, chasing a floor that had become memory. A butcher turned his block over to find it hot to the touch. Water lines dripped into nothing. The smell of wet charcoal clung to everything, an afterimage in the lungs. When the Emperor's heralds finally appeared, green laurel bright against soot, to announce new districts, wider streets, regulations of walls and roofs, citizens listened with the exhausted relief of the nearly drowned hearing the word shore. Then Tigellinus added the undertow. Rome will rise, the proclamations promised, and the guilty will pay. The guilty acquired features as the sentences lengthened. A people who met at night, who refused the gods and declined the emperor's image, who sang when others screamed. who called each other brother and shared bread as if it were a secret. The prefect did not shout the name. He let it bloom in the listeners' minds where fear could water it. Christiani, foreign even when born on the Aventine, convenient even when inconvenient to truth. Nero's eyes slid from the map of new avenues to the ledger in Tigellinus's hand. Vision needs coin. Coin demands culprits. Confiscations could seed foundations. Trials could be pageants to accompany the surveyor's chalk. "We will clear the alleys," Nero said, "and the air." He smiled with an artist's gentleness that can be crueler than fists. In the palace, spectacle quickened its step. In the streets, ash rose with each footfall. A soft applause the city could not stop giving. And between them, carried on the crier's breath, the future arranged itself into two columns, marble and blame. They were perfect because they were wrong in all the right ways. They met at night, catacombs, workshops after closing, courtyards once the last brazier dimmed. So rumor did the daylight's work for them. They refused incense at public altars and would not sprinkle a pinch before the emperor's image. In a city where piety meant belonging, their abstention read like treason. They spoke of one god in a world that managed peace by giving every god a place at the table. They called each other brother and sister across class and blood, and shared a ritual meal that outsiders, hungry for scandal, translated into cannibal whispers. Judea was the rumor's birthplace. Foreign did the rest. Tigellinus didn't need proof, only a crowd's habit of mistaking difference for guilt. So the prefect wrote a script with empty spaces where fear could supply the lines. A sect of night assemblers, enemies of the gods, haters of mankind, each phrase a key that fit a Roman lock. Nero, hearing how neatly those keys turned, nodded like a choir director who has found the note that will carry. Down by the Circus Maximus, Peter heard it coming before it had a name. The smoke had thinned to a sour veil, but the voices were thickening. Market girls repeating what a soldier's cousin had said. Bathhouse clients retelling a magistrate's frown. In the cramped room where the community gathered, scorched oil lamps trembled when the door opened and the old fisherman stepped in, ash in his beard and a child's soot handprint on his tunic. "They will call us the fire," he said. "So be water." Murmurs. Should we hide? Should we scatter? Should we leave the city until rage burns out? Peter lifted a cracked amphora and poured into a basin black with cinders. "First, the wounded. If a neighbor has no bread, break yours. If a roof is gone, lend your wall and your back. If they curse, answer with work." He met frightened eyes one by one. Visible, not loud. Present, not proud. A young man asked if resistance meant fighting. The old man shook his head. "We stand by standing. We answer lies with lives. Expect the storm. Do not help it blow." Runners were named. Houses mapped. Savings opened. Widows took charge of linens and poultices. Craftsmen promised tools. A baker pledged the last of his flour for families whose ovens were now clay ghosts. They practiced vanishing what needed to vanish. Names on scraps, letters of greeting, then practiced appearing where Rome bled, at wells, in alleys, on temple steps with water skins and bandages. Outside, Tigellinus's agents were already collecting descriptions. They don't sacrifice, they don't cheer, they don't laugh at the games, as if refusal were firewood. Inside, Peter closed with a simple charge. "When they come, let them find us mending. If we are accused, let the city's wounds testify." The door opened to the hot, ruin-scented air. They stepped into it like sailors into surf, knowing a wave was forming beyond the break and choosing, together, not to turn their backs. They went where the smoke still breathed, alleys hot as kiln throats, courtyards carpeted in ash, beam forests that sighed before they fell. Christians hauled water in cracked amphorae and stitched flesh with vinegar and linen. They propped rafters with doorposts and ferried children to squares untouched by flame. You could track them by the little lines they left, a jar on a stoop, a loaf on a ledge, a name remembered when memory was failing. Rome noticed. So did the men who had been told to notice. Tigellinus learned early that a spectacle needs rehearsal. He posted helpers at wells, soldiers without crests, freedmen on imperial pay, who asked the right questions with the right sad tilt of the head. Who came first with water? Who prayed while the flames rose? Who refused the vow to the genius of Caesar when we begged the gods for wind? He didn't need answers. He needed angles. A frightened widow remembered hands clasped in a doorway. A baker swore he'd heard singing behind a shutter. A porter described a gathering quiet past midnight. None of it was proof. All of it was suggestion. The prefect's scribes, trained to fatten shadows, wrote it down like weather becoming climate. Then came the slave. He was young, with the quick eyes of someone who survives by guessing the room. Picked up near the first blaze with soot on his calves and a bruise like a thumbprint on his forearm. He flinched when the lictors rattled their rods, even before they touched him. He had seen Christians, he said, or men who could be Christians, cloaked, whispering, near the workshops, perhaps praying, perhaps chanting. He wasn't sure. He could be sure, though, if only someone would tell him how sure to be. They did. A centurion rehearsed the lines, soft as a tutor, a meeting, a hymn, a spark. The boy repeated them, first as questions, then as memory. Another slave, older and already broken, added a tremor. He had carried oil jars for them. Oil. Say the word in a burnt city and you hear arson. Ink turned it into oath. The statements were stamped, sealed, and stacked until paper itself felt complicit. Meanwhile, the believers kept moving. Peter sent pairs down streets where the watch glared longest. If they look, let them look, he told them. Give them something to see. A deaconess bound a legionary's palm where a nail had torn it. A stonemason shored a portico whose god had cracked. A widow poured water over tiles still hissing. Eyes followed them from balconies and doorways. Some softened, some narrowed. By dusk, Tigellinus had enough thread to weave a noose, a map of cells, a ledger of rights, a list of names dragged from rumor, grudges, and fear. He did not claim certainty. He claimed urgency, the tyrant's favorite virtue. When the prefect brought the file to Nero, it sounded like rain made into a river. Many little drops, now a flood. The emperor smiled. Relief had served its purpose. Repression could take the stage. They gathered where the benches had been. By the charred ribs of the circus, ash drifted like slow snow and the air still tasted of pitch. A scaffold had been thrown up overnight, boards raw, nails bright, as if the city itself were a stagehand. Trumpets cut the murmur. Then he came. Nero wore light that the rest of Rome did not have. Clean linen, a polished laurel, the careful glow of oiled torches held just so. He looked over the ruins as a maestro looks over an orchestra pit, measuring, not mourning. When he lifted his hand, the square quieted by instinct more than loyalty. Rome, he began, voice trained for theaters and echoed now by open stone, has been defiled. He did not name negligence, wind, or badly packed shops. He named miasma. He spoke of impuritas and piaculum, stain and expiation, words that make disaster sound like a rite waiting to be fulfilled. Our gods, he said, have been mocked by a sect that hides from daylight, that refuses vows to the genius of Caesar, that meets in secret to curse our hearths. The crowd flinched at curse, a syllable sharpened by weeks of smoke. He promised purification. New boulevards and fire breaks were suddenly lustrations, axes consecrated. He unfurled sketches of order from ashes, straighter streets, broader vistas, brick by imperial decree, and tied them to a sacrifice. To rebuild, we must remove the rot. It was a simple alchemy. Map the future, then find the blood to buy it. Tigellinus stood at his shoulder like a punctuation mark, holding a bundle of tablets. He read from them with priestly gravity. Testimonies collected independently. A widow's tremor about nocturnal hymns, a porter's oath about jars of oil, a slave's sworn description of hooded figures near the first blaze. None named Christians at first. Each ended naming them now. The prefect's cadence made rumor sound like ritual. Around the scaffold, fear hardened. Men who had carried water began to remember wrong. Perhaps they had heard a chant, perhaps seen a sign. Women held children tighter when Nero described foreign rites that deny the household gods. The enemy, he said, and here his voice warmed as if to a favorite role, is not beyond the frontier. It is within our walls. Soldiers at the perimeter shifted their weight and looked bigger. Then the promise, rich with theatrical mercy. I will not punish Rome. I will cleanse it. The difference was grammar. The effect was license. He spoke of order through blood, the way a surgeon speaks of health through incision. Those who aided in the fire will themselves become torches, he said, and some in the crowd, who had watched homes burn, exhaled like a knot coming loose. The sanctioned image did their hating for them. A chant tried itself on the edges. Purgatio, purgatio! Awkward at first, then steadier, the way a lie learns its tune. By the time the torches were lowered to light Nero's exit, the city had been given a story to stand in, not victims of flame, but participants in a rite. Fear had found a shape it could cheer. They came when the city finally slept, when the ash settled on lintels and the smell of pitch thinned to something like exhaustion. Boots first, then fists, then the iron hinge wrench that makes every door the same. Tigellinus had divided the night into districts, and the districts into lists. Not names only. Houses, lanes, landmarks. The baker with the cracked arch. The widow who sings psalms. A cartographer of fear. The order was simple enough to travel down a chain of mediocre men. Knock, break, bind. Take them together. Conspiracies look bigger in families. At the Subura edge, a boy woke to the sound of his father's name, pronounced as a verdict. The door splintered and the room filled with leather straps and torchlight. "All of you," said the Optio, already impatient. A woman tried to answer that she was not of any sect, that she had been hauling water 2 nights straight. The tablet said otherwise. She was added to the count because numbers were the point. Across the river, a cellar that had been a chapel became evidence the moment light touched its walls. The graffiti fish was now a sigil, the common cup a ritual instrument, the stored oil accelerant. A scribe bent to his wax and wrote implements. He did not ask what they had been implementing. Hunger relief, burial funds, bandage stock. The wax does not have a field for tenderness. Witnesses were chosen with the same care a butcher uses to weigh scraps. A slave who had once seen a lamp late at night. A porter who had carried a sealed amphora. and now remembered it as heavy with treason, a neighbor angry about a rented wall. Did they gather? Yes. At night? Yes. Did they swear oaths? They prayed. To whom? To one God. The stylus scratched. Oath. Pliability is a civic virtue in such times. Sometimes the soldiers found nothing but still needed a conspiracy. Then they made one from arrangement. A trunk of letters became a cache. A ledger of charity lists became a membership roll. The old fisherman's staff became a leader's rod. A teenage girl asked to bring her infant. The centurion nodded. Let the cradle come. An infant swells the spectacle and sharpens the mercy that will not arrive. Peter's name was not always spoken, but it moved like draft through corridors. The Rock, someone said with a curl of the lip, and the nickname traveled from mouth to tablet as if it had always been an alias. Those who had seen him pulling children from smoke swallowed their memory like contraband. Truth was contraband now. Carts creaked toward the Praetorian yard, each piled with a different grammar of grief. A silent father, a mother with her jaw set, an old man still coughing soot, a boy counting rosaries that were only knotted thread. Overhead, the Palatine glowed with its own private light. Orders continued to unspool, column by column, and the night learned its lesson. A city can be made to believe anything, if you arrest it in plural. They called it a hearing, but the arena had no ears, only seats. No magistrate's chair, only a dais for the emperor's gaze. The floor was dressed like a verdict. Tar-soaked stakes stood in ranks. Cages shuddered with the breath of hungry cats. Carpenters, quick as acolytes, raised crosses that were more scaffolds than sentences. Rome arrived as to a festival, ash still in its hair. The trumpets announced not evidence, but appetite. Tigellinus ran the proceedings like a chorus master. First, the preamble, a herald chanting purification. The city cast as a temple defiled, the sect as the stain. Then the tableau, families tethered in groups, because guilt persuades better when it is plural. Mothers tied beside sons, old men beside boys, a cradle hung on a post like punctuation. The crowd murmured the way dry timber murmurs before flame. Our balcony woman returned, pressed among tradesmen and shop girls, eyes level with the awnings where senators pretended to be horrified. She had seen these same hands, now bound, hauling water and pulling up bodies from collapsed roofs. She had watched soldiers step around flames while the sect ran into them. Mercy, banked like a coal in her memory, began to glow against the spectacle below. An announcer pointed to a table of instruments, a common cup, a moldy ledger, a fisherman's staff, presented as cultic tools. The audience laughed on cue, brittle laughter that wants to drown doubt. A scribe recited witness lines polished by fear. They gather at night, they swear oaths, they eat a body and drink blood. The woman's jaw tightened. She had seen the bread they broke into quarters for strangers. The lie felt surgical. The theater advanced. Torches kissed the tar, and a pillar became a wick. Bestiari flung open a gate and a cat bounded out, more startled than savage, then taught its hunger in seconds. A boy on a low post whispered to his mother. The balcony woman couldn't hear the words, but she saw the rhythm of comfort. Small, steady, borrowed courage. That rhythm, not the flames, frightened her. A calm that did not bargain. A centurion offered terms to one cluster. Sprinkle incense to the emperor's genius. 3 grains, visible, public. Step back, alive. A man lifted his bound hands as if to accept. The woman's breath snagged. Then he turned, declined with a single, almost courteous shake of the head. No sermon, no defiance, just refusal in a tone that belonged in a market, not a martyrdom. The crowd hissed. Doubt hates polite voices. Nero entered at last, the arena rising as if to a patron. He surveyed the geometry he preferred, stakes, cages, crosses, and found it pleasing. At a nod, carpenters raised another frame. The balcony woman felt the city lean toward obedience and, against sense, spoke. "I saw them," she said. Not a shout, a sentence. And nearby faces turned. They carried water. They pulled a child from the fire. A soldier glared. Her neighbors looked at their feet. The words hung like smoke that does not disperse. The games resumed, louder to smother that thin, inconvenient truth. But once heard, it would not unring. A witness, however small, had stood up in Rome's court without a judge, and the theater had discovered its first crack. They brought him up not to question, but to stage. The hall was dressed like a theater, polished floors reflecting torchlight, a dais for the purple, musicians idling as if a cue might summon lament on command. Guards flanked the aisle in mirrored ranks. Tigellinus hovered, master of ceremonies in a prosecutor's mask. Nero reclined as though at a recital, the city's ash still in the seams of his sandals. The smile of a man who intends to compose a breaking and call it justice. "Name," a scribe intoned, though everyone knew it. "Simon, called Peter," the fisherman said, voice steady enough to carry past the braziers. Nero preferred tremor. He leaned forward. "Tell Rome," he purred, "why you set it alight." The question was not a search. It was an invitation to kneel. Peter did not step into it. "I lit no fire," he said, then spent the night putting them out. Tigellinus produced the script. Whispers of nocturnal feasts, oaths, a king, not Caesar. Peter declined the bait with the softness of a net slipping water. "We share bread. We swear to no crime. Our king was crucified." A murmur shivered the hall. The word itself was an indecency in rooms that preferred marble euphemisms. Nero's eyes glittered. "Crucified," he repeated, savoring the cruelty latent in the syllables. "Then you will have what you admire." He tried the other instrument. Mockery. "Where is your power, fisherman? Your god in the smoke? Call him. Make the flames reverse, make the dead rise, make Rome love you." Peter did not play diviner. "Rome does not need to love me," he said. "It needs mercy." The line landed like a pebble in a cistern. Small sound, long echo. Nero's mouth hardened. He did not want pity in the script. He wanted panic, bargaining, pleas. The balcony woman stood in the shadows of a colonnade, the same witness the arena could not swallow. She saw what unnerved the purple. The old man's refusals were neither seditious nor theatrical. He would not curse, would not applaud his own doom, would not make Nero's pageant shine. "Bind him for the cross," Tigellinus snapped, voice grown coarse by a serenity he could not puncture. Peter lifted a hand, not in protest, but in petition. "One request," he said, and even the guards paused at the absence of fear. "Has my lord died upright? I am not worthy to die the same. Turn the cross." The room tilted. It was humility sharpened into indelibility, the unstageable gesture that steals a director's show. Nero laughed too quickly. "Yes," he said, seizing the chance to transform reverence into ridicule. "Invert him. Let Rome see its world overturned." He thought he had reclaimed the script, but symbols do not belong to tyrants. The order went out. Carpenters nodded, measuring wood with the plain competence that carries history farther than decrees. As they led Peter away, Tigellinus murmured, "You could live. A pinch of incense." The fisherman looked at him, almost kindly. "You're a hard man in a hard office," he said. "May you one day be free of it." It was the wrong line for a spectacle, and the right one for memory. The purple had wanted a broken man. What it received was something worse for power, a quiet that could not be humiliated, a posture that would turn shame into a sign. The arena woke like a throat clearing. Torches lifted, ropes creaked. The scaffold's wood answered with a dry animal groan. They brought Peter out between two files of soldiers who tried not to meet his eyes. The crowd pressed close, the same citizens who had watched the city burn now staring at a single man about to be extinguished. Tigalinos wanted noise. He wanted the old rhythm, jeers, curses, the wet applause of fear. What came instead was a low, uncoached murmur, scraps of prayer sliding across the sand like ground mist. "Louder," a centurion barked, but even his men felt the instruction catch in the throat. One adjusted a knot and found his hands unsteady. Another glanced at the inverted cross they had prepared and quickly looked away, as if the sight might fix itself behind his eyes and return at night. Nero arrived to a staged hush, robe bright against the soot-stained colonnade. He stood where emperors harvest ovations. None came. He raised an arm. Habit, punctuation, and the only answer was the soft, stubborn weaving of voices. A widow whispering a psalm, a child too young to understand, echoing a cadence learned at a table of borrowed bread, the balcony woman breathing, "I saw him help." The murmur did not swell into defiance. It simply refused to obey. They lifted the cross. Peter's face moved beneath the torchlight. Not grimace, not triumph, only that unbecoming composure that spoils a tyrant's scene. When the frame settled, the ropes held, then the prayers thinned to a silence that was not Nero's. It had the density of shared attention, of a single note held past the point of breath. Tigalinos waited for the break. Someone to spit, someone to laugh. Nothing. A soldier near the base shifted his stance. "Orders?" he whispered as if the script had misplaced a cue. "Hold," his officer muttered, hearing in the quiet something dangerously like choice. The Emperor's jaw set. He understood spectacle. He had built palaces to contain it, but dread was supposed to move like current through a crowd. Crisp, conductive. Today it pooled and eddied and, worst of all, remembered. They cut the air with trumpets to force an ending. The sound skittered over stone and failed to land. When the body went still, there was no roar, no chant, only the soft drag of sandals as people stepped back carefully, as from a threshold. Even the execution detail did their work with a care that did not flatter their patron. Knots loosened without kicks, wood lowered without theatrical drops. Nero turned, unsatisfied, to the corridor of shade. He had achieved the quiet a ruler craves, and discovered too late it was not his. Silence can be an ovation withheld. It can be a verdict. He had won the afternoon. The crowd would go home, the ash would settle, but the image would not obey. A cross turned upside down. A man who would not perform his fear. A hum of prayer that taught the city how to remember without permission. Morning finds Rome in a colorless hush. Smoke-stained brick, charred roof lines like broken teeth. The city's breath a slow rasp. Surveyors step over embers with wax tablets. Architects sketch generous avenues where alleys once trapped flame. Foremen pace out fire breaks and inspect new mandates. Porticos of stone, party walls thicker, storage of oil and timber pushed outward. On the Palatine, a different geometry takes shape. Pergolas and pavilions unfurl across confiscated lots. Lakes are imagined where neighborhoods stood. The Domus Aurea is not merely a palace. It is a self-portrait in travertine, a theater that never closes. Nero as sun, rooms gilded to catch whatever devotion survives catastrophe. Down in the ash where the city really lives, another plan proceeds without marble or edicts. At night, two men and a woman lift a wrapped shape from a cart. They do not say his name. They do not sing. They work quickly, gently, with the practiced economy of people who have run out of time. A few words, food blessed in a cup and on a crust, a prayer breathed more than spoken, and the earth takes what the Empire tried to erase. Clandestine burials, whispered stories, routes memorized rather than mapped. This is a Rome that refuses spectacle and builds memory in the dark. The official tale glitters. Nero stages beneficence, rebuilding regulations, relief grain, and writes himself as the curator of order after chaos. He points to culprits who hate the human race, the phrase that will cling like soot. Our lone surviving senator historian Tacitus will record that smear alongside the crowd's unease at punishments devised not for justice, but display. He will say, carefully, that the charge was scapegoat logic more than evidence, and yet that the sect's stubbornness made it easy to hate. The archive keeps both truths, cruelty in public, suspicion in private. Tradition supplies what law did not, that Peter was here, that he died here, inverted at his own request. There is no docket, no edict bearing his name. There's only the joining of rumor, memory, and the stubborn fidelity of witnesses who carried forward a detail the Empire never intended to preserve. The upside-down cross that read as humiliation to Rome, and humility to those who told the tale. From such contested fragments, a map is drawn. A hill, a garden, a grave. A fisherman turned cornerstone by the very machine that meant to crush him. So the paradox hardens into history's bone. By making a spectacle, Nero creates a script he cannot control. He widens streets and without meaning to, widens a story. He builds a palace and unwittingly, a shrine. The new boulevards carry commerce by day and at night. Small groups moving softly toward bread and water, and a name spoken as if it were breath. The Emperor desired ovations. He achieved an end card. Rome will shine again in stucco and gold leaf, but beneath the pavements, in catacombs and kitchens, the seed he tried to salt with fire takes root, and memory learns to burn without smoke.